What's up, guys? What's going on, everybody? Ladies and gentlemen, it is 9:07 a.m. New York time, and it's Wednesday. So thank you for joining us on BlockRoots YouTube for Crypto and Coffee. Yeah, I'm a few minutes late. There's a little bit of a lag for some reason. A little bit of a lag between my OBS and YouTube catching on and allowing me to press start the stream. So I apologize for that. But yeah, what's going on, guys? We have so far a decent amount of people in here. Going to give it a minute or two so that anyone else who is fashionably late can hop in, and yeah, they won't be left behind. Say hi to a few people. It's Cornholio, what's going on? Getting to know you. Ashley, how are you? Let's get it, mates. Let's get mates. Well, let's get mates or let's get it, mates. I think you meant let's get it, mates. Some charts and coffee, yeah. Jimmy Trendricks, Pascal Floor, J.E. D. Ross, what's going on? Roy Haxers, Pascal Julin. All right, Adrian. Yeah, so as you can tell, I'm not wearing a hat today. For those of you that were in yesterday's stream, Cred stopped in, Crypto Cred, and he was making fun of the fact that I was wearing a hat indoors. So this morning I've gone ahead and tamed my mane of hair that I have now, and I've put it back so it's wet, and I have a little ponytail in the back of my hair that you probably can't see. Daniel, that's what it is. Danielle would have two L's, right, and an E. J.E. Ripcord, what's going on? Okay, yeah, Crypto Cord changing call sign. Yeah, yesterday you won the $100 in BTC. On the third cup already. Yeah, B-Town. I am on my second cup of coffee. So, for those of you that are new, Captain Youth, what's going on? So for those of you that are new to BlockRoots, to the BlockRoots YouTube, just want to thank you for stopping by on behalf of myself and my partner, Josh Rager. BlockRoots, we try to keep it as simple as possible. For those of you that have been following me for a long time now, you know that I am primarily an order flow trader. I primarily trade Bitcoin. I do dabble in some alts when the environment is suitable. But BlockRoots as a whole, what we try to do is provide a non-sensational approach and analysis of the crypto markets, which I think is hard to come by on YouTube. So for some reason, YouTube is kind of full of the marketing and, you know, sensationalist hyperbole that you should, I think that you should steer away from. So between, I think, BlockRoots and you know, since we were talking about him since he was in yesterday, Crypto Cred, their YouTube, I think that there's starting to be a little bit more of things that are moving in the right direction on YouTube, where there will be good sources of market education, whether it's trading education, investment education, but again, a good source of education by people who have a background in the stuff that they're teaching, which is really important, right? If you were learning any subject from anyone, you know, this actually doesn't necessarily translate to school teachers, because someone might be a English teacher, but they might not necessarily be a novelist or a writer. But if you want to learn about markets, if you want to learn about trading, you should learn it from people that have traded professionally, or rather currently do trade professionally. Whether that means that they've worked for a, you know, some type of desk, whether they're a prop trader, whether they were an institutional trader, whether they were a, you know, traded privately on their own, but they traded for a living. They relied on their trading profits to live. Okay, so peep my music already. Captain Youth, stop trying to shill me your music, man. Just send one in my inbox, and if it's good, I'll listen to it. Send me a YouTube link. Workout song, bro. You sleeping on me? Yeah. Well, like I said, man, send me something on YouTube. Send me something that I could click. Dapper Dan Wax. Okay. All right, guys, what's going on? So, just saying what's going on to some of the new people. If you could go ahead and click that like button. What we want to do is to try to get as many likes as possible. We have a good amount of viewers right now, but the more likes that we get, the more that we will be, I think, prioritized by the YouTube algorithm. And you know that ends up helping everybody, because that puts us front and center. And again, we want to be a signal amongst the noise that exists right now on YouTube. So if you could help us out, hit the like button. We're going to be doing a giveaway in this stream. we're going to be giving away 5 memberships to BlockRoots. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with what we have that's outside of our YouTube and all of that, this is BlockRoots. So we'll go to BlockRoots website. This is the front page, but more importantly, this is all of the stuff that we put together. So regardless of what your trading approach is, you know, we have a really good roadmap for just order flow and market profile. The way that I trade, all the things that you see me sharing on YouTube and you see me sharing on Twitter, we have an entire course right here just for that. So I have 42 videos covering just that subject matter alone. And then if you're a new trader and you want to learn about, you want to learn about risk management, you want to learn about trading breakouts, you want to learn about trend following, you want to learn about, building a trading system, okay, the basics. We have all of that stuff right here. And again, it's very nicely laid out, and we put together all these educational videos, and there's hundreds of hours of this stuff. So I'm going to be giving away 5 memberships to this, and this also includes the newsletter that we do, and it also includes our community. So our community used to be on a web-based platform. I think it was called Mighty Networks, and now it is actually based on Discord. So we have a good community on Discord where people are constantly going back and forth about current state of the market. And at the end of this video, 5 of you will have access to this, and you'll be able to join our, our BlockRoots fraternity, or BlockRoots sorority, right? We have people of all different backgrounds, men and women, who are getting, progressing as traders in crypto and in traditional markets. Okay, I think we're going to start. I love that membership. Okay. Good stuff. Seeing if anyone new. Sigmar, how you doing? I'm just making sure that Pascal, I say hi to everybody. I think I said hi to everyone that right now has already popped in. So yeah, let's talk about 2 things really quickly, and then let's take a look at the market. This morning I have had an adequate amount of coffee. I still have dry eyes, so I'm excited actually I'm really excited to get LASIK. So once I get LASIK, I won't have to wear contacts anymore. I think that's part of the issue. So 2 pieces of news that I want to talk about. Okay, we'll get rid of this. This is Gunlock talking about Trump winning. Is Bitcoin's rally overstretched? This key indicator says no. So they talk about the first thing I want to talk about is they talk about the Z-score. We haven't gotten into the Z-score yet, the MVRV Z-score. It's not something that I am normally going to be referencing. What I want to talk about is their reference to the RSI. So they're talking about the 14-week relative strength index. Okay, the RSI is something that is useful in a ranging market. Right? A bracketed market, a market that is stuck in a higher time frame consolidation. It could be a low time frame consolidation too, right? The RSI is an oscillator though that is used better within sort of ranging conditions. It is a momentum tool. So the benefit of looking at something like the RSI is if you have a range that is formed, all right, if you have a range that's formed, you have a high and then you have a low, right? If you're paying attention to sort of the feedback that you get from the RSI at the high and at the low, you're looking for the same behavior to occur in a range where you have this mean reverting nature. And typically at the high and at the low, you would start to see that momentum by one side of the market that was dominant on the way up in this case is starting to wane. Okay, so when momentum dips, when maybe the RSI is overbought again, but price has not done much to move further up, you're paying attention to these signals to see that, hey, maybe we're approaching the turning point again. So more importantly is to know that, not what an indicator does, but when an indicator is most useful. And something like the RSI is better used in a ranging, more bracketed environment. Now, it can be used in a trending environment, but it's not necessarily the way that I see it used more often than not. This chart right here, they're referencing the weekly RSI above 70, and above 70 would imply that it is, technically overbought. So we'll go to a higher time frame chart. We'll go to the Bitstamp chart. We will zoom out. We'll go to the weekly, and as you can see, I have a few lines on this chart already, and we'll cover that in a second. But we'll put the RSI on here. So we're going to go to relative strength index. All right, and what you're going to see is that typically above 70 and below 30, people are going to be referencing this area as overbought and this area as oversold. Now, the problem is a lot of people will look at this area and say, okay, price is up here, it's above that level, it's overbought, right? And they're expecting some type of reversal. Or prices, has been moving in a downtrend and it's below this 30 value and it's oversold, and they'll look for a reversal there. And you can see that on the weekly, there's less noise with this in terms of the feedback that it gives. So it tends to catch these areas pretty well. But on the daily, on the something like the 4-hour, so we could see there are multiple periods where, for example, right here, you're overbought, price over here does not reverse, right? It ends up going on to continue further up. Same thing happens over here, right? You're overbought and price continues further up. So this is not a trend-based tool. It's not optimized for trends. And when people are using this for a trend, a lot of the times what they're trying to do is they're trying to notice periods like this, where you do have price that makes an overbought signal, okay, at a high, continues to move upward, and instead the RSI has begun to diminish. Now, it's important to understand how this is calculated, because people are going to look at this and see that, and say that it means that we have an RSI divergence and that should be acted on alone. Now, in this case, it ends up working out, right? You get a pullback, but you don't get a full-fledged reversal. The problem with this is the RSI is based on generically a 14-period setting. So it's a momentum oscillator. So this period had a lot of momentum, right? And you don't have to know how many bars is in there to see that it was a good amount of this move, right? The degree of the extreme at this high was due to the fact that we came off of this consolidation and broke out very violently. So when price is moving sideways, the RSI is going to reset. So the RSI is going to go back towards the middle. Any move after sideways price movement, where you've had a persistent sideways price movement, is going to throw the RSI off. So the first overbought, the first oversold RSI on a lower time frame, it's always worth throwing out. Maybe not necessarily throwing out, but using as sort of a warning shot. It's your warning flare that goes up and should have you thinking, all right, maybe I'll start paying attention now. Maybe I'll start looking for the signs that maybe we're topping out or we're losing momentum and so forth. Now, you do get lower highs after you have a big extreme move in the RSI. So after you put in this extreme move, after the sideways price action, when RSI resets and is more towards your 50 level, the moves that follow the big move are always going to be divergent. So they're always going to print lower highs on the RSI, unless, under one consideration, unless they continue to move up at the same rate of speed or greater than they did prior. So the only way that you wouldn't get a divergence in the RSI is if price just continued to move straight up. So it's not necessarily then that a divergence is worth saying, okay, it's divergent, there's an RSI divergence up here, there's a momentum divergence. We know that because this was a very big move and these are slightly smaller moves. We know that means that, yeah, things are not just continuing up at the same rate of speed they were prior. But that's what happens during major bull market moves either way. Price moves up, consolidates, moves up, consolidates, and goes from a state of balance to a state of imbalance, to an impulse, to a consolidation, a state of balance, to a state of imbalance, impulse, consolidation. So I think that a lot of the times the RSI is referenced a little prematurely, especially when you consider that it's not the case that we're in a ranging market. We're in a trending period right now. Now, getting to the weekly, because they reference the weekly, so is the RSI overstretched? Okay, so in a trending market, indicators such as the RSI can remain overbought and oversold. So they touch on a good point, and this is what I was going to get to. In bull markets, what you'll typically see is that you'll have multiple periods where the highs will continue to be overbought, right? And it won't mean that clearly price is ready to turn around, because as you can see, this trend has been moving up. What you should start paying attention to is if we've been making highs over the course of this entire structure, so if this is, high, higher high, higher high, what you should pay attention to is, are we suddenly doing something on the RSI that, let's just draw one, that's doing something like this, right? That is showing a loss of momentum over a really long time frame. Well, then maybe you have the case for a turning point, but you don't have the case for a reversal. So that's really important to understand. You don't have a case for a reversal, right? In this case, the driver behind this trend doesn't need to mean that that's exhausted. On a weekly chart, the RSI is typically in a bull market going to remain overbought. So it'll remain above a 50 value. So you'll see that in Bitcoin's brief price history, that during bear markets, the RSI has remained under 50, and during bull markets, it's maintained above that level. And it's continued to give overbought signals, and in the bear market, it's continued to press the oversold area. So, for example, going from this blow off top right here, okay, price, when it begins to move into a bearish trend and range, it spends most of its time at the lower portion of the RSI of this oscillators, this window right here. So we're looking at this. It should pop up, but it's not popping up. There we go. I'm just trying to make sure it could show you that it's at 30. It spends most of its time below 50, right? Once the bull market resumes, you're seeing that we spend most of our time, I should use a straight line. We're spending most of our time above that 50 level. Okay, so this is just showing you that momentum is to the upside. And this is based on candle closes. Now, the entire time, this bull market might have given you the impression that it was overbought, right? And at any point, if you acted on any one of these signals and thought, oh, it's a higher time frame signal, that has to mean that the market is going to turn. Those might have been temporary turning points, but the trend persisted nevertheless, right? The indicator has no bearing on the underlying movement of the price, right? The indicator is a derivative of price. So it's not the tail that wags the dog. So right now, momentum is upward. Okay, what we've seen is price has made a pretty obvious decision as to what side of the RSI that it has been, or that it has chosen, or rather, the RSI is very obviously trading well above 50 and maintaining this value. And right now, maybe for the first time, we are pressing that overbought area again after not having been back there since June. Now, I think an important thing to recognize is price right now. Okay, this was a blow off top. So let's zoom in a little bit. So this was a blow off top. This is much different. This entire move up is much different. It's spot led. Now you could see that the RSI over here hits this overbought area twice very quickly in these blow off top conditions, right? And a blow off top is something that you're going to have to become more familiar with how you identify it through just price action, but it has a very specific look. It's a very violent move at the high, a very quick reversal, a very quick sort of bounce back, and price never recovers. So there's this blow off sort of exhaustive. Yeah, the best way to put it is it's parabolic at the end. Okay, so it's parabolic, and then it leads to this major sell-off, which leads to another major bounce, but price never recovers the previous high. And we haven't had anything that even remotely looks like that yet. So the fact that we are in sort of the same territory price-wise, so up here above this level, and we haven't had any ridiculous movement. Now, a blow-off top is going to always be coupled with an RSI that is overbought. And you could start marking out, if you want, previous all-time highs with the RSI to see, okay, maybe if we're approaching this threshold, for example, if we go all the way back here, this was off the chart, right? But most of these were off the chart. But at this point, we're not even close to a reading that gives you the indication that momentum has been really insane. Okay, so I guess if the point that I'm trying to drive home is the blow-off top isn't there, the momentum hasn't even been insane. This has been doing a nice steady climb over the last few months, which is exactly what you want to see for organic price appreciation. You don't want to see that this thing is skating away, right? It is moving very quickly, and that the derivatives are getting detached from the underlying spot price. So what we can see right now is that currently, we have Coinbase trading at 275, we have BitMEX trading at 272, we have Bybit trading at 278. The market is very much in line, and if anything, we're seeing that there still is that spot strength. So don't make sure that sort of, if you're looking at something like a ranging environment, you wouldn't use a moving average. You get chopped up, right? If you're looking at a trending environment and you use an RSI, you're going to get a lot of false feedback. Okay, so RSI. Here's how I would use the RSI. If I'm going to leave you with one parting gift, because I know a lot of people see other people use RSI and they swear by it as part of their strategy. My problem with the RSI is when you're using it for this method, which a lot of people do. So we'll go to just a clean chart. When you're using it for a divergence, so here's a divergence, right? So what we have is a overbought area with the RSI. Okay, price makes a higher high, and RSI is making a lower high. Now, the first overbought is worth, again, paying attention to. Okay, so you see the overbought. I'm not acting on it, but I'm starting to look. I'm looking down at this on I'm looking down at the price action right now. It's sort of like at this point, it has my attention. I am preparing for maybe that setup, but it doesn't mean I'm acting on it. So now you have an RSI divergence, right? You have another press up to that high. We're glad we didn't just act off of this alone. This is on the 4-hour chart. People use this all the time. So now you do have a divergence, but that alone is not a reason to get into a trade. You still need to see that if we just circle this, the underlying price action, and go back to that point, you'd still need to see, okay, so we have this divergence on the 4-hour. We have a host of other confluence as well. So what is the other confluence that we have if we're looking at just the loss of momentum? Well, a sign like that is worth paying attention to if you're paying attention to first another level that's significant. So what were we looking at to begin with? You're looking at this low, which is support right here. So technically you'd be having this in mind, period. So when we're talking on BlockRoots about why we use TPO, about why we use volume profile, and these how we derive these significant levels, they're significant, but they're what we look at as we're approaching them, right? We have in mind a certain level and we're looking for the behavior at that level that would either signify, acceptance or reversal or exhaustion or absorption. So we had this level to begin with, okay? Most people I would assume would have this level because it's your support, you lost it. So this would be the area where you'd be looking for that loss of momentum. So if you're using the RSI, okay, so now we're approaching this level. This is support. Oh, okay, now we do have a divergence in momentum. So now you're starting to look for, maybe at this point, the signs of a reversal. And what would be the signs of a reversal? Well, on lower time frame price action, that's where you might really refine this. So if we circle this again, because otherwise I'll lose it, we go back to the 30-minute chart, and we don't want to do that. Okay, I have too many drawing tools. I have drawing tools that are independent of TV, and ones that are not. So here we go. We'll get rid of this. And the MA that I have on is just for the weekly, so we'll take that off. So what do you have after that divergence that occurred right here? Well, one of the things you have is you have a series of higher lows, okay? You have a higher low. You're starting to violate previous higher highs, though. So higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, lower high, higher low, lower high, higher low, though. So now you're starting to have this compression. Now you have the pop-up. You have your divergence in the RSI, so you have a sign of momentum being lost. This compression is occurring at an important level, or at an important level, and now you've just lost previous microstructure. So let's just say that this series of higher lows is important. Price broke down, breaks through this level, and you get a retest of, if you're a diagonal trader, you might enjoy this, but on the way up, okay, higher low, higher low, higher low, significant resistance at this point. This was the point of your RSI divergence. Not only are you acting on that, you're looking at that to really substantiate the case for maybe price turning at this area and it being significant. And at this point, you've lost this level, and now you're retesting the underside of it. So you have more evidence for your thesis that this is going to act as resistance and price is going to reverse from it. But it's not just the RSI. That is just one very small feature, small tool to pay attention to. And it's sort of similar to looking at the CVD, which is something that we do in BlockRoots, except the benefit of looking at the CVD is I actually can see if buyers are no longer as interested at those levels, whereas the RSI, it's just going based off candle closes. So a candle close, we talk about candle closes. A candle can close all the way at the high, but there won't be any volume at the high, right? So if we just look at something like this chart, so we'll go to just pick a random candle, all right, and this candle let's find a green candle. So let's find a big green candle with not a lot of volume at the high. There's a lot of volume in these candles right now because this was a pretty strong trend. But as we move up here, for example, we have a green candle, strong candle upward. As we get towards the high, you get a lot of buying action, but the bid doesn't follow it up. This is a hard example to use because not a lot of you are going to understand the footprint chart. But what you can see in the candle versus just using the candle close, so the RSI will be calculated based on the candle close. So if we move up, candle close, what you can see with the CVD is, there is less buying activity. So what you're focusing on is the actual volume that took place within the candle, which might look something like this, right? You might have had most of the volume down here. The candle closed up here, but there was really no buying volume up there whatsoever. It was just a matter of, whether it was illiquidity or the ask stepped off and price was able to move all the way up towards that at the close, right? It's just a function of when the candle closed. So yeah, important point to, I think, to go over. So we'll get that out of the way. One other thing that I just want to talk about really quick, Michael Saylor news. He plans on buying more Bitcoin. So that is fantastic because, again, Bitcoin is a fixed supply asset. He's taking supply off the market, and the guy is not cost sensitive. So he bought Bitcoin at 9,882, his personal price. MicroStrategy came in slightly after that, and they plan on buying more. So there's no sense in thinking that that's bearish whatsoever, because at this point, he is a very large market participant that's taking off supply, and there are only 21 million Bitcoin. I know that that's an overused statement, but it's the truth. That's a very low value in terms of a float. And this guy, maybe he'll carry the entire market. So I think it's worth talking about. You can see on this, he shares Raoul Pal's Bitcoin charts, and Raoul gets a lot of shit for his charts because they're oversimplified line charts on Bloomberg. And Raoul, what he did was he pit BTC against a bunch of traditional market pairs. So it's sort of like, instead of we look at ETH BTC, if we're looking at how ETH is doing against Bitcoin, he created Bitcoin versus Amazon, Bitcoin versus gold. He didn't create them. He paired them. And of course, you're going to see that on any chart. So if you look at this is NDX versus Bitcoin, and then this is one of the other ones is can't think of. Let's see. I'm looking for. I think he put up an Amazon one. Amazon. So this is Amazon versus Bitcoin, right? This is like the Amazon Bitcoin pair, which is just ridiculous. We know how insane Bitcoin's growth has been, and that it has been one of the best performing assets of the last decade, of the last 5 years. And it's the best performing asset this year. I think that it's the best performing asset this year. I think it is up. It might be up this year 98%. Let's just double check that, and then let's get into some actual structure and what we think is brewing. So real quick, since 2020, so we're going right here. So right around here we are up. I want to say 90 something. Okay, so 79, 80%, but we were up 89%. So that's tremendous, right? The S&P, what is the S&P up? Is it up 7%? So look at the S&P. So since the beginning of the year, which is kind of arbitrary, but that's how people have decided to look at the market, right? Calendar year. It's not arbitrary, but I think you understand what I mean. So we're up around, now it's around, well, it's come off from the high, so it's up around 3%. So clearly Bitcoin is the number one performing asset. If you create a pair with it, it's going to make that pair look very weak. The same way that the ETH BTC pair is created, or any alt BTC pair right now is just falling off a cliff, because it's showing relative performance. Okay, so let me make sure I didn't miss anybody in the chat. Thank you for joining, guys. LASIK causes dry eye. Yeah. So is it LASIK or PRK? I don't know which one. My brother-in-law does it. And my life right now is just in a state of constant, like, I make a plan to do something, and I'm so preoccupied with all my other plans that I'll say, my parents-in-laws my in-laws the other week, and I see him, or this is 2 weeks ago now, or 3 weeks ago, who knows? And I say, I'm thinking about getting corrective surgery, and he's like, all right, yeah, no problem, come in. And I'm like, yeah, I'll come in next week, yeah. And then, it's a month later, and you guys know how that is when you're busy and you got a lot of stuff going on. You make promises, or you don't make promises, but you make sort of wishy-washy commitments, and you're like, oh yeah, I'll call you, oh yeah, I'll hang out with you, oh, you free next week? And next week becomes a month, and then it becomes a year, and then you feel stupid when next time you see that person. My brother-in-law I see 3 days a week in the morning, because he drops my niece off before he goes to the office. Okay, so let's see. Do we think we'll see another drop below 13K? So I want to go through some of these. If anything stands out, and then I'll hit them specifically. Okay, so as far as BTC, so right now, for those of you that are unfamiliar, for new, Josh and I, we are partners with Phemex Exchange. So I'm trading in the Phemex trading competition. So this is the Phemex trading competition. This is the account that I have for it. Right now I am, what am I ranked? Let's see, PT Arena. I'm ranked number 66 out of 2,300 people. Not that good. So my return the last 2 days has been 13%. Now, this has been, it's not that it's not good. It's good. You know, I've returned 13.8% on my account. I was up like 20 something percent, took a loss. But either way, I'm trading with a large account balance, which is tough. Instead of depositing the 0.02, I deposited almost a third of a Bitcoin. But what I was trading mostly was the lower time frame scalps. Now, what I'm looking for right now, as you can see that I have these buys much further down below, is sort of this scam wick. So you can see that, you know, I'll stick this on the trading view chart so it's a little bit easier to see. And then we'll go back to that to make sure I'm not missing anything. This is a prior range that we were stuck within, you know, going on from the 21st to the 28th. This is what we impulsively broke through. After we do something like this, where we have a range, we impulse out, and then we get a very quick reaction back down to the low, or a very quick response. In this case, it was, you know, 1 day out and now 1 day to return. I don't. It's not that I don't think that this support should hold. I'm just not going to blindly bid this support. I actually took a trade this morning that I closed out. So I closed this trade out for 0.012 BTC, and that was, let me see my order history. That was at, I sold 13,353 and I was out at 13,260. So just very short-term scalp, $100 rotations, growing this account with base hits, right? And this is not an area, though, even though it's coming back to this support. This is not where I'm going to blindly buy. I do have limits down here. So what I think does happen a lot of the times is the first most sought after support. Everyone's looking to buy first dip, right? Everyone's looking to buy the first dip. This is not the first dip. This is after prices made a bunch of really strong movements upward, and we're pretty extended. It would be reasonable to assume that we could very well begin to enter a longer term ranging period again, and that this could sort of continue until we break the all-time high. And you know, these have an uncanny resemblance to each other in each cycle. So they get shorter and shorter. The moves up are getting smaller and smaller. So we could sort of be approaching, so we have a big move up, long consolidation, but this is before we broke a major contextual level. Big move up, smaller than the prior, shorter consolidation, okay? Big move up, smaller than the priors, and then now maybe a beginning of a new consolidation as well. This is something that reminds me of previous run-ups where people think that the best area to buy is the last area that should act as support. And a lot of the times what you see is these people just get wrecked. It just gets pushed all the way through. So I ended up taking profit at this level with that short just because it was a short-term momentum play. But I do see that this could probably just gun this level and do something like that. So for that reason, if this was the prior range that we were trading in the entire time before we had this breakout, so this is the value area low, value area high, and we have single prints down here. So single prints means that there's a gap right here. Okay, so this is a single imbalanced move upward. I am looking for, more often than not, what occurs, which is the level gets forced through, guns the opposite side of the range, captures this liquidity, and then you see something like this, where it reclaims it. And what happens is, you know, you create a ton of selling pressure because you take out all the stops that are created up here, all those stops where everyone thinks that they are in good position. You take out those stops, and then once this level breaks, you create those market sellers that are looking to sell a reversal. That's a ton of liquidity, and then price very quickly reverses. And then maybe we go on to create another, you know, longer, boring range. So that is what I am preparing for. I have those orders down there. And it's a very, you know, it's a lucky play, hopefully, where you get that move down. And what I would ultimately do is, if we flush this area, I would close that out on the first bounce. So the first wick that we settled up here, I would immediately I would probably just try to manually close this trade out as soon as possible. I don't want to place a take profit on it yet, because it could be something that does something like this, right? Comes all the way up there, and I don't want to take profit prematurely. Or if it flushes this area and then settles and looks like it's found its footing, I might leave this on a little bit longer. This ultimately could do something like this, where it flushes it and then hangs out here. And then at least at that point, I'm still in good position. I don't think that it's going to flush through that 12.5, 12.6 level and go down to 12. But, you know, either way, it's a risk I'm willing to take on the trading competition account. This as far as, so this just, looks ugly. One of the signs last night, it was tough because this is not a blow off top yet. This is a roll. So it's just people getting long up here, and you can see that there is a, decent amount of aggression towards this high. So we'll just go back to the high. Now we're down, 1 sec. It's a decent amount of aggression. You have a good amount of volume up there, but there's really nothing that stands out. Just a lot of buyers up here. So looking at, this is on the 15-minute chart, it's a bigger aggregation, so it's going to have more of these large buys grouped together either way. But even if you looked at the 5-minute chart, we go back, there's a ton of buyers up there, but there's really no sign that, there was any kind of extension or exhaustion. It just looks like it got a little heavy in this area. And a lot of the times what you see is that, and as one of the sayings goes, the market, before it needs to move up or before it moves up, it needs to sell off. So you need to build up that sort of, that the other side of the market, gearing on a reversal or betting on a reversal to create the squeeze that ends up moving the market further up. This, if you're looking at this on the low time frames and maybe how you could have played it, or maybe what you could have looked at, or maybe the fact that we lost this trend line, but you have a series of slightly higher highs, higher lows after one signal that was used that could have been used prior, which ended up not being a good signal to act on. One signal was you break the high and then you're back within. That was sort of the same thing though as moving above here and then being back under and treating that as a reversal trigger. That didn't work out too well. So you have to, sometimes you take it and it works out, sometimes you take it and it doesn't. I didn't end up taking the short up here. I actually had limits that were slightly higher up, looking for, again, the scam look to the upside. Not how I'm trading my personal account, it's just how I'm trading the Phemex trading competition account. So yeah, you could have said, all right, you have this fake out to the high, and now you have something like this, which is the underside retest, and let's connect the dots over here. You have a high, higher low down here, higher low, high, right? Higher high, but then a loss back within the range, and more reasonable trigger would have been to act over here. But either way, it didn't look like a blow off top. It's not necessarily the case that it is the top, right? It's just likely that we're going to spend more time moving sideways to build up that pressure to move further up again. And if you look at something like, we'll go to the funding indicator, which is popular because that will show you basis, just how much it's being bet against. And we already do on the low time frames, you'll see that this is already negative, right? It was negative on the way up too, but the market had been starting to get a little bit longer, and you do have spot as well, and this is not going to show up down here. So what you want to see is you want to be placing trades at really good levels, right? Obvious major contextual levels. You want to have these levels in mind beforehand. So whether that is this level, so I don't know if that's this level for me, but if we see something like this, so let's say we base out up here, we're moving sideways, we're showing strength. Let's say we do something, let me go down to a better resolution. Let's say that we maintain this 4-hour close above this level. We have something like this, wick through again, closing above, and then we have some type of structure that looks like it's trending upward again. If at that point you see that funding is starting to go negative, that this basis is still like this, negative, let me change the color so that maybe it stands out a little bit more so it pops for contrast. All right. So if you still see that there is this negative basis, so that's a premium index indicator, it's a derivative of basis. If you still see that, it means that spot is still showing strength, right? And it could be a sign at that point that if the market has continued to move sideways, whether it looks like this, right, doesn't matter. If it's still doing that and you still have that negative basis, and if we look at something like, let's look at BitMEX right now actually. BitMEX or any major exchange, the funding, so view live trading. So BitMEX is not negative. Let's go to funding rates indicator. We have no negative funding yet. So what it's showing you is that the market is not aggressively positioned yet into the low. And aggressively positioned, by that I mean it's not aggressively enough. It hasn't been aggressive enough where one side is potentially caught off sides at this level. And it just makes me think that this is not the level to buy. Now, if we look at this on the high time frame, there's a few things I think that are always worth reminding yourself of when you're a really strong trend, because you don't want to mess the trend up. You don't want to prematurely sell the trend and panic and then be buying back higher slightly later. So what we're looking at right here is I think this is just a beautiful chart. And I always made fun of people for saying beautiful chart, but you have this really nice progression to the upside. These charts are almost identical in terms of time horizon. So if we just measure this from peak to the next break, peak, let's go to that again, it's not locked, peak, and then let's just say at 166, right? Roughly at the same area. It's almost like, you know, this looks like it's the exact same chart, right? It's on this exact same path. So I wouldn't want to mess this up and get overly bearish when the trend is so clearly bullish, right? You don't want to, what you don't want to do is miss this entire chart, what's taking place on this chart, by focusing on what is taking place here, because you're going to leave an impression on your brain either way. You're going to look at this and think, oh my God, that's so bearish, and you're going to forget that we're looking at a, you know, that is a data point on a weekly candle that is not even going to be noticed, right? It's just it's nothing at all. So right now, another thing that I think is worth noticing is the 20 period on the weekly, right? 20 period on the weekly is pointing up. So this is the 20 period moving average. Let me get rid of the other things. 20 period moving average is this blue line right here, this dark line. It's aiming upward. Okay, this is a lagging derivative of price, so it's going to be late to the party in terms of giving a signal. When things shift, price will close below it first. But either way, it is aiming upward, and price has been respecting it. And not for nothing, on the way up in a bull market, you want to see that, you know, your long-term, these really popular, you know, non-high time frame, excuse me, not low time frame, but higher time frame moving averages, or trend-based tools, you want to see that they really do their work. Because this is going to be, you know, if I'm a portfolio manager, not a portfolio manager, because they're going to hopefully be in this for better decisions, but if I'm managing higher time frame swing positions, position trades, maybe I'm just a person with a lot of capital on the sidelines and I want to know where I should get involved, I'm looking at returns to this level, and I'm looking at these as areas to value average in. So some people dollar cost average in, some people value average in, and this what might be, you know, one of the pieces of criteria you use to, okay, this is a point in which I value average in. It's a valuable point at this point if it, it sounded funny. It's a good opportunity at this point if it pulls back to the 20 period. And that might mean price is further up, but at least it's, you know, that is an area where there's probably going to be a lot of buying power. So this looks great right there because it's just, you can tell it's coasting along. It's going to get extended from that and revert back to that. So when you see that it gets very far away from the 20 period, it's not necessarily that it is a, you know, a sell, but more often than not, you see it mean reverts back to this level. The Bollinger Bands, that is the center line indicator in a Bollinger Band. So if we put Bollinger Bands on right now, that is the center line. So that's actually, I'm looking at an EMA, but if we look at a MA, so we'll put on the 20, you're going to see how these line up. Okay, so the center line of a Bollinger Band is your 20 period moving average. And you'll see that in a bull market, that it's going to be at the exterior of the standard deviation band for most of the time. So again, it's another one of those signals that is, it's applied, I think, without proper discretion, in that if you're looking at an RSI and you see that, oh, the RSI has, it's overbought, it's oversold. In a bull market, it's going to remain overbought a lot of the time on the high time frame. In a bear market, it's going to remain oversold. In a bull market, on the Bollinger Band chart, this would normally be a good mean reversion opportunity in a ranging condition, or maybe a trend that is not as solid. But in this case, this is just how it's going to be. It's a very, you know, strong asset. It's going to be extended towards the top side of this band. So this outer band and this lower band, these are standard deviation bands. They're standard deviation bands from this 20 period moving average. So if you're looking at these charts right now, I wouldn't be looking at these charts thinking, well, where do I have to get ready for the reversal? I would just be looking at these charts anytime that you're having maybe doubts, right? If you're looking at Bitcoin when it's pulling back in a low time frame and you're thinking, oh my God, it's pulling back really bad, that's a big red candle, look at these charts, okay? They don't give false feedback because they take a really long time to move. Now, that being said, they give a little bit of a late signal. So a trend follower is hopefully going to capture the bulk of the trend, but they're not going to capture the turn. But this is something that I guess it could instill confidence in you, because you could say, hey, nothing has really changed in terms of the higher time frame trend with the larger, you know, I guess less noisy indicators. As far as structure goes, so let's go to the BitMEX chart. As far as structure goes, you can see that I have so many lines in my chart. This is mostly for intraday plays. Again, I just identify what levels I'm focused on seeing and what levels I'm anticipating a reaction to occur, and I know that these levels are areas that I'll look for certain behavior. That's all they are. Where am I in, where do I have in mind to look for the type of behavior that I would want to see in a continuation structure? Where would I want to look for to see that we have absorption below us? Well, you have to pick a point, right? And for me, a lot of it is obviously based on the distribution of previous ranges. So it's the value area high, the value area low, where we spend 70% of the time, where the extremes of that were. For where we are right now, I wouldn't be scared or shocked if we pulled back all the way back down to this range. Okay, I wouldn't want to violate it too much. So one of the main points, I keep stressing this, right? On the way up, this resistance was loose. On the way down, when people were panicking that this was a reversal, I kept saying, I was very loud. Even Cred said it yesterday in the stream. I was the loudest person about 10K. One of the loudest people. I was saying, don't mess this up. It's a support and resistance flip. It's going to be a buying opportunity. It's going to be loose, though. It's going to be scary, but it was loose on the way up. On the same way, on the same, excuse me. On that same note, after this break up here, so after we made that move, if you're just focusing on the last range, so if we're looking at this last range, let's go to the fixed range tool and show you what I was looking at. Value area high, value area low. So if we zoom in, you can see that this is a bit darker. So 70% of the volume takes place in this dark area. So I'm not really concerned with what takes place outside, sort of like a distribution curve. Right, I want to know where 68% or 70% of the values fell within. Everything else is kind of just, it's a price at a single point. I want to know where price spent the most amount of time, where buyers and sellers did the most business. You could see that on the way down, we did come down to the top side of that, right? Many times we were bouncing along the top of the structure, and it wasn't exactly, the case that you could say, hey, if it violates this, it's going to be bearish, right? Or if it pokes under here, it's bearish. All we want to see is that it does a good job at hanging out around the top, right? You don't want to see that in a bullish structure that price is coming back down to the low of the prior range, right? The top side of the prior range, it being loose up there, completely normal. It's an illiquid asset, right? The same thing can be said with this current range right here. So if we do this anywhere in here, okay, if we bounce around in this area, I'm not concerned. Now, that being said, do I want this to bounce down there right now? No, not necessarily. I would be more bullish about this. I'd be a little bit, I guess, cautious about it if it just came down to here right now, because then I might look at some of these lows as being targets. What I'm talking about is if we flush this low right now, bounce up, and we put in a higher time frame range, do I have a problem with something like this? No. No, I don't. Okay, so this whole area up here, expect that price to come down there, and it's not gonna change the trend, right? If you look back at, we just go back to the Bitstamp chart and we go all the way back to the previous trend. Look at some of these pullbacks. I mean, you would be, calling for the end of days, right? If you were within this structure, you get a 31% pullback. This just falls off a cliff. Loss of momentum right there, looks like, takes out all those stops. You get a cascade, 29% off the high here, 33%. And I joke around and I say some of these opportunities, some of these times are periods where you just wished you weren't at the computer for that week, right? Because if you sold that, you were blown away by the time that, 2 months later, price it looked like it was the end over there, right? So just know what kind of, it's always important to know what you're in, right? And you know that Bitcoin is, it takes all possible roads to get to. So if you just look at this, under like some linear regression, just Bitcoin does this, right? On the way up, it trends up, but it does this. Okay, it takes the most violent path on the way upward. But if you look at the weekly chart, if you look at the monthly chart, it tells a bit more of a it makes the story a little bit more clear. So don't get lost in the low time frames. I am hopefully going to get a flush. I would love to get that flush down here, something like that. I could just see that happen. After the market turns, Bitcoin likes to punish a lot of people, settle, and make everyone sort of question whether or not they are as gung-ho as they were just the day prior. Okay, some questions. I'm 48 minutes into this, and I've just been going through Bitcoin. So I'm not anticipating this support to hold. I'm looking for a flush down here into the single print zone. A lot of time you see that that'll act as a little pool liquidity that we'll wick into and then find support out of. And then honestly, what I anticipate, if you're gonna say, hey, you had a crystal ball, or what do you think would happen if you got that situation? So if we got this, I would anticipate something like this to occur, right? More of a range to form. And then the same as my prior approach, the most important thing to me at that point is still down here at this low being maintained. So I don't focus on, so let's say that we're trending like this, we're putting in this range, and we're over here. Okay, some people will say, you know, this low is so important, it's of utmost importance. No, I consider the first low. Because what I would be doing is I'd be taking my profile for this structure, because it's not that at this point when price is ranging, I don't necessarily care about this point, or, you know, because this is a 4-hour swing point. I want to know where buyers and sellers have been doing the most business, so that I know where, if we cross a certain line, where they haven't been willing to do business before. Because then I could say, all right, we haven't done anything down outside of the value area. If we start moving into the value area and we start to see it's accepted, well, price has now chosen to move outside of this range. It seems like it's chosen this direction. Okay, so now we're coming back down here. Until that happens, a lot of the times the value area is determined by the first extremes, right? So a lot of the times it's going to be a result of this high, this low, and you're not going to see that maybe this low breaking in the interim or between that point is that important, because you could get something that occurs like this, flushes, makes a higher low, right? Moves back to the high, loses this low, and then everyone's panicking, and then what? It makes another low slightly below that. There's no real hard fast rule in trading, and I think that when you apply hard fast rules, you see how sometimes you're on the wrong side of the trade, when they might work frequently, but you know, there's always that one time when it takes advantage of the people that just operate on that system. Okay, all right. A lot of questions, a lot of all right. So I've come across your channel 2 weeks ago. Okay, I'm glad you enjoy it, Pascal. Funding isn't mostly close to high yet. It isn't, which is a good sign that the top isn't necessarily in. But it's always important to know what your driver was. And funding would be high, and it would be a sign that people are really getting greedy about leverage and upside exposure. So it's always a good sign when it's very, ooh, we're going to get the flush. It's always a good sign when it gets very positive, right? That maybe there is a trend reversal, that if you're making the case for a trend reversal, that you might get one. But it's not remotely high yet. Don't forget, though, people that do, it is spot driven, and people that buy on spot can as equally dump their bags too in a panic. So I've stats as high. Okay, what's up? Hold on one sec. I have stats as high as 30% of all BTC mine has been lost. See, that's a good thing. I have to watch the rest later. Hope to see some review of Link USD. Yeah, I'll go over Link in a second. Zcash. Okay, all right. I want to see if I could bulk answer some things. Thoughts on ETH. All right, so these are all things that I planned on going over. So at MV envelope, it's a Bollinger Band, right? Standard deviation bands. There's different types of standard deviation bands. There's Kelter channel. There's Donchian channels. In what level should I buy BTC? Kotwicka, I don't answer questions like that, so I don't tell people what level to buy. I just say what levels I'm interested in. If you've been watching, you probably picked up on that. Smash those likes, folks. Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's talk about Link. Let's talk about Link. All right. Link, as many of you know, I was pretty public about buying spot Link. Now, Link, if we're just looking first, you always want to look against a BTC chart in a bullish market, because you want to know if it's outperforming BTC. Clearly, as of the last 3 days, it's been underperforming BTC. Now, in terms of Link USD, my level to swing long Link was this blue line right here. My level to go long spot was down to 815 below this, but below this low. And why was that? Honestly, a lot of that had to do with previous lows that we put in with Link. I just figured that Link has been structurally, the patterns have looked pretty similar. with moves upward and bottoms, and I figured that this would be a good reference actually, and that worked out quite well. And what I'm referencing is it being, and I was pretty public about it, so it's not like I'm backfitting it right now. I've been talking about it doing this for a really long time. Just the bottom being something like this, right? A rising structure, but the highs being maintained, and I would be looking for swing longs at a break, just because it had done this prior, and I thought that Bitcoin wasn't done, right? Which it hadn't, it isn't. And I think the link will follow to a degree. I just don't know where it goes from 15. I expected a move up to 15. We haven't lost this level, so it's not like it's not going to be there, but it is showing relative weakness, but so is ETH. So as far as Link, you know, it's maintaining important structure. It found a little bit more resistance than I anticipated at this daily cluster high. But this 1061 level, I think that as long as this holds, it should be fine. If we lose this 1061 level, you know, I don't think that this previous low is the thing that holds. I think you probably come back down towards this area, and then maybe you have a longer term structure that builds. But at that point, you know, maybe I'll reconsider my positioning. As far as ETH, where did my ETH go? ETH BTC. Right. Okay. As far as ETH BTC, I know it's already showing weakness compared to. Come on. Why is this? Did they change TradingView? Just the look of it. As far as ETH BTC, I know that it's showing. I want to find the longer term chart. There we go. It's showing relative weakness to Bitcoin, which is frustrating because I got back in. I added a considerable amount of spot ETH yesterday. Triple digit spot ETH. So, you know, this is showing relative weakness to BTC, but it's been the case that it's appeared like it's been doing that as of the last few weeks, and you know, it looks to be like it might be the leader to the. It might have been the leader to the downside now. I do think that it is a higher play on Bitcoin for the near future. As far as long term, this is a shorter term spot play, I think, for me. I don't think I plan on holding this spot position to begin with for really long. I'm targeting for ETH. I'm targeting initially this 433 level and then 475, and I was just treating that like a spot trade. This right now is becoming a little bit uglier, right? This is looked like we had a really good bullish response off of this support, right, which was this blue level I've had on for a while now, or colored in recently, but I've had this line 392, 395 is what I've been saying for a really long time now. It's 390 on the chart, but I've been stressing 395. So we got this nice test right there, but now we have a bearish engulfing candle. So that's not a good look, right? Not a good look when this is like, support, and then, nah, sorry, son. So we not looking too good with ETH. It's showing relative weakness compared to BTC. As far as all alts go, Bitcoin dominance right now is on the low time frame. It's declining because it's there are some things that are probably not dropping as hard as it, but with alts you want to see that Bitcoin dominance is declining and ETH is looking healthy and Bitcoin is at least stable. I don't think we're anywhere close to a position where you buy alts yet. I don't think that that's the case. Not yet. And that's because, you know, Bitcoin is sort of not in a stable position right now. If Bitcoin was to continue moving up, alts would suffer. If Bitcoin moves down from here, alts suffer. It's kind of a no-win situation for alts until Bitcoin has a blow-off top or has a major correction and, you know, ETH starts outperforming again relative to BTC, and then we start to see that Bitcoin dominance is dropping. So you need a few things to occur before you can get into alts, and hope is not one of them. I hope that, about to say I hope I get my flush right here. That'd be great if we got that during the stream. So what do I have right now? I have, how many, ooh, we gonna get it? Let's, come on, drop. I mean, I'm asking for a $400 drop. That's kind of, I guess that's not that nice. So I have my limits to sell still. Get rid of those. I'm going to add to this. Since this is the trading competition and I'm trying to just catch a wick, let's add, wait one sec. I'm going to add a few down here to really size up. Okay, that is at 12.6. Just playing for that wick. So we're looking at I'm playing right below this blue line. So right at that blue line, that single print area. So now we have, what do we have right now? I want to open up, that's 35,000 contracts. I want to go a little bit bigger than that. Trying to play for the win, right? Against teams of hundreds of players that are throwing the algorithmic strategies at the you know, throwing the book at the market. Okay. So this is a lucky play, hopefully, because this is not something I would want to do on my personal account without a stop in place. This is kind of a go big or go home moment for the trading competition. You know, I'm only up around 14%, and you know, that's the problem was starting with too big of an account balance, and I made a mistake. I don't know why I couldn't reverse it. I wanted to start with 0.02 BTC, which would have meant that if I levered up the way I am now, I could have been trading with positions that were less than 20,000 contracts, or it would have been less than 10 contracts. Excuse me, it would have been less than 10,000 contracts. Whereas now I have to trade with 30, 40, 50,000 contracts, and that means that when I enter into a position, I'm already losing because I'm slipping. And a lot of this stuff has to be done with market orders. So, yeah, JE, I am using 10x for my limits. I'm using cross, but this is just for the trading competition. Okay, thoughts on ETH? No, I don't believe ETH will die if Bitcoin goes to 20K. No, I'm not in a short position. I closed out a short position earlier from, what was that, 353. I closed out a short from 1353 that I opened this morning at 8:13 in the morning. Okay. But so for anyone who's new, this is just the Phemex competition account that I have. So this is not my personal account. It's got real money in it. It's got a few $1,000s in it, but it's just for the competition. Okay. Value here, people. Only 23 likes and over 100 of us learning for free. Just smash the like. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay. Let me see this. You can go over like you did this morning. It's creating divergence. Thanks. Okay, so RSI, you want to go over that again? I feel like I'm gonna get the wick. I feel like I am. I feel like the market is getting heavy, and you get to a point where as the market moves through previous levels, so now it's kind of okay. So consider this. This should act as support. So now you're sitting on the sidelines. Are you thinking that you want to try to buy this in the middle of the range? No, you're probably thinking I'll wait for down here, right? So which leads to people stepping out of the way, which leads to hopefully that flush. I'm hoping that I get the wick. I mean, maybe I should move my orders up a little bit. So maybe I should move these up. So the reason why I'm keeping them low on this exchange is because I know Phemex is going to overshoot. So I'm playing for that lack of liquidity. Ooh, this is getting good, guys. It looks it's right at that level right there. All right, just gun it, just dump it, just puke. RSI in the 30-minute. That's what you said you want to look at, right? Okay. Yeah, it's oversold right now, but it could just continue to be down here for a long time, or it can stop right here, look like it's moving back up, move down more, but it's not moving down as abruptly as it did there. So then it's going to create a divergence, and then maybe that is worth paying attention to. But right now, this doesn't mean anything to me. It's just, hey, it's oversold, but yeah, it looks like it's going to be, looks like it's going to flush. Come on, give me that freaking drop, man. All right. So I have them set between 12.7 and 12.628, and I just need it to just puke. Just step out of the way, people. It's not settling until it comes down here. And what I'm thinking is it could come down here, flush this, and then end up back up there. I don't know why it would stop right here. It would be really... So it might stop here right now, but I think that it ends up flushing that either way. Okay. Uni. I think Uni and everything else DeFi related is going to take some time to recover. This looks like it's on its way to doing that. So Uni does not look good. Uni does not look good yet. Yeah, so this is your daily level. What you would want to see with Uni is, that's your 4-hour level. Your daily should be right there, though. What you want to see with Uni is something like this. Let me put on a TradingView native drawing so that it could stay on the chart. What you would want to see, so we're losing that daily level again, right? What you would want to see is that price breaks down and can close back above this level at a minimum. So at above 271 as a minimum. It's just, I would step away from this right now. It's not going to turn right here. As soon as it starts gaining acceptance below here, again, you get people that are just going to step out of the way. Cross is using your entire balance as margin, so it's going to be changing the as the trade changes. Isolated leverage is isolating a specific amount of leverage for the position. And that's good if you want to make sure that you are not going to potentially bring in the rest of your account balance into the trade as margin if the trade goes against you, which means that, you know, if you're liquidated on an ISO position, it's not going to affect your portfolio balance or your Bitcoin that you have that's not dedicated to the trade. You have a specific margin dedicated to the trade with ISO. Looking at funding premium, something to lose edge over time. No, it's not, because it's a leading in. So Julian, funding is an indicator of positioning. So it's a really good indicator. I don't think that it's an indicator like anything else. It's not a lagging indicator. It's strictly a sign of positioning, which means that you have to apply it with discretion, and I don't think something like that's going to lose edge. As far as the way that the market is structured right now, it's not going to. Okay, can you check out LRC? XRP is, sorry, bro. Okay, let's see. XRP, LRC. What was that? Someone just, oh, okay. Someone said the weekly. Just thinking of what someone just said. Let's go to a cleaner chart. I mean, if you want to look at just levels of importance that we have below us that could still act as support, that should still, I guess, create the same level of confidence, they're still back down below here. So it's, again, you can violate this area. You don't want to come too far into that level, but trends are like this that are strong can be very loose. And this weekly candle right now is not really, doesn't mean a whole lot because there's 4 days left to it. Okay, so LRC and then XRP. You know how I feel about XRP. This is a pretty horrible chart. I feel for anyone who has this, but has a long way to fall, it looks like. You know, or you could say that maybe, this is just an ugly chart. You could just say that maybe it comes down here, finds support at this 1024 level. I would initially be looking at that because you have, you know, if I was looking at this, I would be looking at that level because this is just an ugly chart on Bitfinex maybe. This is your previous cluster before this move up. So I wouldn't be buying it where it is right now. I don't personally know too much about this to begin with, but look at the chart. You know, sometimes you just have to be honest with yourself and look at the chart. This is showing complete and utter weakness. XRP, same thing. Look at XRP. I mean, it's this is a weekly chart. It's making lower lows on the weekly chart, lower highs. I mean, against Bitcoin, it's not strong at all. If you're looking at the next area of importance, it's this low, and a lot of times you do get a reaction on the high time frame. So you might close below it temporarily, but you'll get a high time frame swing failure outside of that level. If I was looking to long XRP, it'd have to be showing weakness compared to BTC, and it's not. I mean, even XRP USD. I mean, this chart's just smoked. Yeah, it's not. Some people they bought into the Swift and XRP replacing, I don't know, money transfer of the world. Like, it's not. There's no reason why XRP should accrue in value. To serve its function, it doesn't make sense that it would accrue in value, the token. So yeah, I like vertical drops like this. I don't look at the first support in this case because of how close we are, and I mentioned that. But I like this kind of vertical drop, and I think that hopefully we get this flush. But I'm looking at these lows. Just thinking, am I going to get more of an overshoot on Phemex? I think they're good right here. Well, we'll find out shortly. I had to get run over. That would be ugly, right? If I just got ran over down to this level. So that that high could be gunned, though. So that is, so probably about around that high is even better. I'm just trying to make sure I have this scaled out around the best possible area. So my most important level is that blue line. I don't know if you could tell, but that high, I'm just trying to catch the wick. That high is at 450. So if I'm in that vicinity, that's a little bit lower. We'll find out soon enough. Let me zoom out 1 sec, guys. What I'm trying to mix is that high with that single print level, and I had it too high before. Okay. I mostly want that single print area because I think we could gun that beginning of that gap. And then we have, let me just make sure. Okay, so there, all right, so I'm on the right side of it now. Earlier I had it above the high. Well, it should be, I want to have it between this high and that single print gap. So that's the beginning of the single print. I don't want to have it just below the low. I want to have it below that single print gap and above this high. All right, so set up now. Cool. VIX ripping. That's never good for Bitcoin. Oof. Oof. Didn't see that. That's a bad sign, right? VIX and BTC have an inverse correlation. So we'll just go to, look at this, guys. I put this on the last week, or one of the videos in the last week, to show this correlation. It's an inverse correlation between BTC and the VIX. So you can see how it's negative, it's inverse. That means that, you know, Bitcoin, if VIX moves up, Bitcoin moves down. Just, it's a tumultuous market at that point. It's not that the dollar is ripping or anything. ES is dropping though. SPX dropping today. And Bitcoin dropping as well. So we'll see. Anyway, my orders are down here. Come for me. All right. No, I don't really look fibs too. I mean, I look at fibs sometimes during breakouts. I'll look at the 0.318 just to see where the closest possible area is. Trailing stop at 1280 with a 60 trail value. So that's 1 half-hour ATR. So I don't know if that's, it depends on what kind of trade that's for. Yes, X factor. Yes, I've been, for now, since, let's see, I'm 35, 21, 14 years. Okay. Theta. All right, Theta. Theta has been, you know, one of the strongest assets of the last year. This is against Tether. Let's look at it against BTC, and then we're going to wrap it up, guys, and give away the memberships. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, Theta is just, you know, the next area I would look at for Theta is somewhere down in this vicinity. Somewhere down here. Not where we are right now. It's kind of in dead space. All right, guys. I think we're about an hour and 13 minutes into this. I'm going to do the giveaway. So to take part in the giveaway, and I have to do the random comment picker. What we're going to do is, for those of you that have been in this video, and just for those that are going to be watching after, go onto below the page. Make sure you hit the like button. So I got to make sure that the person that wins has to have hit the liked button. And then leave a comment below. It could be any kind of comment. Tell me, you know, anything. It's not going to be, it's a matter of being randomly picked. So leave a comment below and I will do the random comment generator within the next 24 hours. And for those of you that win, I will reach out to you. You just have to pay attention to your YouTube. So we're going to go ahead and do that within the next, I'd say, you know, we'll do that sooner because for those of you that popped in, I want to reward you guys faster. So we'll be giving away 5 memberships. And again, just leave a comment, not in the live stream. Leave a comment when the video fully loads on YouTube. And within the next 24 hours, I'll be doing the drawing. And I'll do the drawing on video. So I'll post that as well, just to make sure that you guys can see how we did the drawing and all of that. Okay, guys. So you'll see the comment box once the video completely loads. All right, guys, everyone have a fantastic morning, evening, and night, and we will get together we'll get together again on Friday.